Ferguson. Albert skorar! Albert Gunnarsson hefur skorað. Ragnar Bergesen hefur skorað og mark! Glæsilega! Óskar Hrafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og hann aftur í Gunnarsson!
Hello and welcome back to the best pod ever. We are back. We have a couple of rounds to cover, but first and or foremost, I am joined as always by Tryggvi. Hello, Tryggvi.
Hello, Ragnar. Good to be back.
Great to be back. How do you feel about round 10 and round 11 of Besta Deildin?
Round 11 was a little better than round 10 for reasons we'll go into later, I think. But yeah, good. It's we're halfway through, plus 2 games. Those were the round 14 games that we had a few weeks ago. So we're halfway through the regular season. Mm-hmm. Things are shaping up.
They sure are shaping up. Perhaps we should look at the table as is and as compared to your predictions at the start of the season. That would be something to do halfway through, one might say.
Mm-hmm.
As you predicted, Víkingur are in first place. You predicted the top 3 correctly, Víkingur, Valur, Breiðablik, but not the positions of 2 and 3. They are inverted. For Joe, they are in fact wrong, but correct teams. You guys both correctly predicted Valur, Víkingur, and Breiðablik in the top 3. You both put Stjarnan in 4th place, which they are not. You both put KR in 5th place, which they are not, and KA in 6th place, which they very much are not.
Yeah, I kept every single season people keep putting KA like above KR, and I always thought it was ridiculous. And then I think this season I thought, okay, they built on last season, did well in the cup, did well in Europe. Maybe this season they'll do okay. And then yeah, obviously the one year that I predict them to finish high, they don't.
Yeah, but such is feet balls.
Mm-hmm.
These sort of top 3 positions were they reflected in the past couple of game weeks? Valur picked up 4 points, scored a total of 7 goals. Víkingur picked up 2 points only, but to be fair against Valur and KR. Breiðablik picked up 4 points, beating KA and drawing against IA. But at the moment they find themselves pretty far ahead of the rest of them. 27, 26, 25 points for them, followed by IA on 17. Seems to be a 3-horse race, absolutely, at this point in the season.
For sure. Europe is coming up for all those teams now. Let's see if that derails any of them, especially if they get a bit further, like Breiðablik did last season. Maybe their focus will go elsewhere, especially if they lose a few or drop a few points. But yeah, all else, being equal, these 3 teams are just a class above the rest at the time of recording.
Yeah, and have been all season.
Mm.
But sort of stepping outside of those teams, there are some talking points, I guess, for round 10. Háká, IA, and Stjarnan all got some big old wins, or important 3 points there, which have different meanings for them all, right? For Háká, it's a step away from relegation,
yeah,
which is important for them at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And they followed that up in round 11 as well, so they're in 8th place now.
Yeah,
it's quite tight, at sort of in the middle to bottom now. But they're 4 points behind IA, which is a little bit insane. Just a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's maybe not insane, but the fact that IA is in 4th and Háká are 4 points behind 4th says a lot about what the state of the league is below the top 3 at the moment. It goes in roundabouts a lot, but yeah, good results from Háká. To really well fought wins as well against Fram, and then if we touch quickly on the Stjarnan game. Then round 11 they were 3-1 ahead. Stjarnan equalized to 3-3 with a few minutes left, and in most other games in the last 2 years, Hauka would have folded, but they ended up scoring an insane goal from halfway to win it. So 2 great wins, and they're going up, and it's good for the league. We wanted this. We didn't want another Keflavik like last season. We didn't want a team just completely off the pace. So this is great. Bottom 7, Fylkir at 7 points. 4th at 17. That's not a huge gap. So hopefully we get an exciting second half of the league.
Yeah, anything can sort of happen down there at the bottom. Yeah, I mean, I remember saying a few weeks ago that that's what I said, that I didn't think that they really had what it took to push themselves to the top of the middle pack. To be fair, they are, equal on points with 5th place, FH 1 point ahead of Stjarnan. It's all very tight, but I guess IA are sort of continuing to prove me wrong a little bit, in that maybe they do have that little something that some of these other teams from KR, Stjarnan, might be lacking. But now is the time to turn up the heat, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but they're doing really well the last few games, but I think it shows a lot if you compare them to their point brother in FO. FO just had their first win since I think beginning of May this weekend. So I mean, there's not a lot of solid form for any of these teams. They're all taking points off each other, but then they also, like EA, are taking points off the top 3 as well once in a while. So it's a weird old league this season.
It is a weird old league, but firmly in bottom, semi-firmly in bottom, we have Fylkir, and I guess we might as well move on to some unfortunate talking points in their game against Vestri, which, for those who are unaware, then Davíð Smári, the Vestri coach, brought up some allegations of racism from the Fylkir players towards his players in their game where Fylkir beat them 3-2. The latest developments there is that KC are not going to be pursuing this any further for what they say is sort of a lack of general evidence in either direction, or to really sort of shed light on what is supposed to have happened. So there will be no further action there, but casts a bit of a shadow over the league and over Fylkir as a team, I guess. Or what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, it should go without saying in the year 2024, but this is, I think we should say it either way. This is unacceptable, and this is just, if this happened, I mean, behavior like this is just, has no place either in football or society or anywhere else. It's a abhorrent behavior to abuse someone like that. So, I mean, I really hope it didn't happen, but Vestri are saying that while they respect the decision from KC, they do stick to their story. And they want people to not, brush this under the rug. They want people to keep talking about this. So we'll keep doing that, and hopefully some more will come to light. But it's one of those things. It's not VAR, right? You can't prove this because of a touch. It's something that someone needs to have heard and someone needs to report. So if it had indeed happened, I really hope that someone does report it. Mm-hmm. I don't think we should name any names. There's been some speculations in the media about who it could be and who someone was speaking to someone, and I don't think that makes any sense.
No.
Right now, but I think we should definitely this should be looked into very seriously, because this is something that has no space in modern society.
No, absolutely not, and it's just I mean, it makes the league look terrible, it makes the society look terrible. But he said, Tavi, that the people who did this know what they did. So really, I don't know when it's not going to be taken any further than this. First of all, I think we should just be a little bit more vigilant about this in the league and in general. And then I think these people who know what they did supposedly have to take a big old look in the mirror, right, and understand that this is not the way forward, and hopefully see that there is condemnation, even if it's unconfirmed, or they'll be able to see the sort of outward condemnation from society on what they've done, and hopefully reflect a little bit on that, because this is fucking ridiculous. Unacceptable.
And I think it's important in a society like Iceland, where things are a bit smaller, things are a bit closed, and maybe people think that, okay, we'll deal with this behind the scenes and stuff. I think this sort of stuff needs to be out in the open, and we need to talk about it. So yeah, I agree. Hopefully there is some unofficial condemnation, but I really hope that, like I said, if this happened, that there's some official something down the line at some point, because we need to recognize it as well. We can't just sweep it under the rug like Vestri were saying.
No, exactly, absolutely, amen to that. But Vestri on 10 points. Maybe they'll have the last laugh or something. I don't know.
I mean, it wasn't a great 2 rounds for them. They had this, and this is much worse than any result. But 2 losses even, and then what was supposed to be a bit of a celebration, coming home to Isefjordur, playing their first home game of the season, or first game at all in the Bestadeildin at Isefjordur, and got absolutely slaughtered by Valur. A little bit. Yeah, no, not a little bit. Yeah, quite a bit down to the goalkeeper there, William Eskelinen, who I think he's been unfairly treated a little bit this season. But then someone, or a common colleague of ours, actually published some stats on goalkeepers this season, and maybe proves me wrong a little bit on my defending of Eskelinen. So there was after the first 11 rounds. Plus 2 games. The stats on the goalkeepers, William Eskelinen is at the bottom of prevented goals, where he has 5.3 goals fewer. What do you say? He's conceded 5.3 more goals than the statistics of expected goals, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So for the people out there who are unfamiliar maybe with his expected goals. Calculations is basically given the shot that is taken, or given the chances that are created, statistically the chances of getting a goal from that, regardless of whether a goal or not happens, are sort of tallied up. So let's say you take a shot from outside the box, there's a relatively low probability of scoring from that if you took sort of an infinite number of shots from there. So the proportion of shots that would go in is considered the expected goal from that shot, and obviously when it's something much closer to the goal, like a tap-in, the expected goal is very high. And in this case, he is letting in 5.29 goals more than the expected goals against his team, which, I mean, these things should, I'm unfamiliar with the methodology completely employed here, but this should correct for a defensive performance, theoretically, at least to some degree. So it should be at least a little bit indicative of an underperformance, but it's very hard, I think, to disentangle the defensive performance from this as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's, if you look at the bottom 3, it's Ólafur Kristoffer, Árni Snær, and Eskelinen. Árni Snær is maybe a bit of an exception, but Ólafur Kristoffer and Eskelinen are two goalkeepers, and Fylkir and Vestri get a lot of shots on them. Yeah, obviously, if you get a lot of shots on you, then you're bound to concede some, and sometimes, the more shots you get on you, it's easier to underperform in these stats, right? If you get one shot on you, it's a bit easier to be maybe a little bit over under the expected goals, right? But not like a huge 5-goal difference unless you let absolutely everything in.
Yeah, I mean, you can filter out a lot of these goalkeepers here that have only played 2, 3 sort of games like that, and most of these goalkeepers have played 10, 11, 12. But what's interesting, I guess, is Guy Smith, who's received a lot of criticism, is up there. He's overperforming by about a goal. Given the public discourse, you would have expected him to be wildly underperforming. But I guess a lot of the criticism there has also been the decision-making and conceding fouls and getting red cards and things like that. But Árni Marino for IA, overperforming like crazy, stopping 7.4 extra goals over the course of 11 games. So maybe he's playing a huge role in their position in the table currently. Because, they've conceded 15 goals. So it would have been an increase of 50% had he let in those extra goals. So that could have made a very big difference to their standings.
Yeah, that's the danger with these sort of teams like IA and Fram before that. Like when you're talking about Fram, who've now slipped down the table a bit, they haven't won a game since I think May 5th. they obviously, as a team, were doing very well, but the goals were coming from, I think, one man. I think Gumimak was one of the highest goal scorer by quite some distance, and the rest of was spread one goal per player. So I can actually have the stats here somewhere. Yeah, so Gordon Magnusson had, I think this was after 10 rounds, he had 4 goals. Harald Reinar had 2, and then the rest of the team had 1 goal. So as soon as Guðmundur Magnusson isn't scoring, then someone else has to come up with the goals, and that's a little bit what he is going through now. Viktor Jonsson, he has 8 goals. The next one down is Henrik Harðarson at 3, Arnar Smáradonna at 2, and then you have Árni Marino, saving all these shots. So like, the conventional wisdom says that these things even out. So if Viktor and Árni start performing more to the mean, then we could definitely see a bit of a slip down the table.
Absolutely. Or perhaps Árni is just a class above this league in terms of goalkeeping performance.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very good goalkeeper. There's no doubt about that. But let's see. Hopefully he can maintain this. We have another goalkeeping talent on our hands.
Absolutely. But perhaps there's one big talking point that needs to be addressed here as well, which I guess we might as well get over with. IA beat KR 2-1 in round 10, which was then followed by the sacking of Gregg Ryder. The end officially of Ryder Ball, and Pálmi has apparently taken the reins for the rest of the season, having been his second in command. How do we feel about this?
Or at least interim,
Yeah.
Interim coach. We'll see if he's for the rest of the season. But
I mean, the talk seems to be that they want him for the rest of the season, but I guess they have Oscar as well, who just stepped in as a consultant. So there's some sort of tag teaming maybe that'll be going on, or who knows?
Yeah, I mean, they just announced that Bjarni Guðjón was stepping down as director of football or something like that, and he was going to join the private sector, or sort of join a normal company. But now he's the assistant of Pálmi, so I don't know if that he's going to stay and be the assistant, or like. And then you have Oscar, who said very publicly several times that he has no interest in being a coach. The rumor is that he might step in next season after they've fixed some of the corporate stuff and maybe brought in some players. I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, on Gregg leaving, I don't think, I haven't really, apart from, some Facebook comment sections or something, I haven't really seen anyone be in favor of this. You even had a Valur player that I'm blanking on exactly who it was, but he was saying that even when they, Valur absolutely trounced them there the other day, that what he felt that this was sort of a project at KR, and they were making some mistakes, but they were trying to build some stuff, and it takes some time to build things. Víkingur and Valur and Breiðablik took some time to build their team into what they are now.
Yeah.
So it's a bit odd to give him a 3-year deal and then sack him after 10 games.
Yeah.
Without a plan. Like, it's a bit. I guess it speaks a little bit to what happened to Runar. Neither of us was against Gregg coming in, but it was clear that he was not first choice. He was 5th or 6th choice. So they sacked Runar without really having a plan, other than maybe bringing in Oscar, which wasn't that realistic at the time because he was very clearly moving abroad at that point. So I don't know if there's a plan now to bring in Oscar now or at the end of the season, but then why not give it? I don't know. I have no idea what's happening.
No, I mean, I don't like to see this happen. Watching KR, they haven't been performing great. I mean, no. And there is some danger of relegation. It doesn't seem super likely to me, but I guess from sort of a panicked board or whatever point of view, there is some danger there, and the performances maybe haven't been there. But watching them, it hasn't seemed to me like the performances have necessarily been a coaching issue. There's been so many individual mistakes that have cost points that it's very difficult to blame the coach all the time. And like you said, if they don't have a plan going forward, and they didn't have a plan before, it's starting to look a little bit like a circus when they do things like this. And unless something was behind the scenes where he's lost the dressing room, which the stories I haven't seen anything like that.
No.
In that case, yeah, it would make sense to get rid of the manager because it becomes untenable. But barring that, I don't see the benefit in doing this. I don't think it's the correct approach. When you hire a coach like this, where it's clear that it was, that you wanted to build something and take it in a different direction and move somewhere that you then give him 10 games filled with individual mistakes and then let him go. I think it's not the right choice from my point of view.
No, but it's also, I mean, we haven't heard from Gregg. We've not really heard from Coward apart from it, them saying that it's, I don't know, just the generic sort of stuff. But you can speculate about the whole Oscar thing. Like you bring in someone like Oscar Up, a very outspoken man, a very successful manager in Icelandic football. You bring him in, and then you hope, you really, really hope that they explained it to Gregg, that there was some plan, like this is his role and yada yada. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also damaging for Gregg not to explain it to the public. I know they said, and it's more that he said, I'm not interested in coaching, but there was never a statement from Coward being like, he is not the manager. We have no plans of him being the manager this season. And then next season, there was no long-term plan. It was just, we're bringing in Oscar Rapp as a consultant to address sporting issues. Mm-hmm. Like this is and then of course, there was already pressure on Gregg, and then you put this on him as well. Even if he explained it behind the scenes that like, look, he's not there to take your job. He has no interest in doing it. He just wants to be the sporting director or whatever his job is. Coward should have come out at that point and said, like, he is not, and like they should have, all three of them come out, Gregg and Oscar should have come out all in the same time and said, like, look, this is the plan. Oscar will be doing this, this, and this to support Gregg, so to support Palme, to support the women's team, everything. But it just seemed like I don't know. This is just seems like a circus, like you said.
Yeah, this has been. We said it in the preseason that the hiring of Gregg came as a slight surprise, but a good sort of positive surprise because it seemed like Coward were trying to make a good sort of decision where they were trying to do something properly and not just do some panic jobs for the boys type of move, or just some sort of short-sighted maneuver. But it seems like they have fallen back on things like that, and that's kind of been the story of Coward for a couple of years now. His poor decision making on an institutional level. So I am a little bit worried for them as a club in that regard. They don't give the air of a club of their stature.
No, I agree. And then there's complaints about the city of Reykjavik not supporting them and giving them, facilities and things like that. And that might be true, but it just seems like I don't know, there seems other teams have made it work, and maybe it is pure corruption on some level in some place, but it just seems a lot of complaining from Coward. Yeah. And then, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, the whole air around the club seems a bit like we're slipping further and further away from the top three. Mm-hmm. And then you have teams like Stjarnan or FH who aren't that far off if they can get their act together and maybe get a bit of stability and get a few seasons under their belt. They're not that far to challenging that elite level, but it doesn't seem like we are that close.
No, absolutely not. 2 points ahead of Vestri, who, granted, have been performing great given what they have, but the differences in supposed resources and everything, this shouldn't really be at the same level.
No, the point behind Framlú, like we said, haven't won a game since beginning of May for like a month, almost 2 months. Yeah. No, it's.
But I guess it's classic for the people in charge there to look at exactly those things that we said and just blame the manager and want to, hope for a new manager bounce, which they did not get, at least in the first game. But can you call it a bounce? Yeah, maybe 1-1 against Víkingur. Against the league leaders.
Yeah, it was a good performance, but Keith Smith had a really good game. It could have ended really badly, and Víkingur, I think, tweeted from their official account at halftime that I have no idea how this is 1-1 at halftime, and it's kind of true. Vikingur had so many chances, and Key did really well to keep them out. And all momentum was with Vikingur, and they were leading 1-0. And this is a game that could have ended much worse for Kauer, but then there was an injury break. Kauer seemed to gather momentum a little bit during that break. It broke up Vikingur's momentum, and then they scored 30 seconds after that, after the restart, and dropped deeper, managed to defend. Guy did really well. So in that sense, it was better, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you can make any judgments off this game. I think it was a good defensive performance, but let's see what the bounce is really this weekend.
Yeah, and things might get a little bit hairy for Kauer going forward as well. They're losing both Mutas Nefadi, who literally just got there. He's going back to Sweden. And then Lucas Magni going to the States for school. And then there's talk of Benoni going to Utrecht. But whether or not that would happen immediately, it seems unlikely. But, I mean, I've been talking him up. Best striker in the league.
I mean, he was very close to joining Gothenburg in the winter, so I don't think... He's a very consistent performer. Why not take a chance on him, like this 18, 19-year-old striker? If you're Utrecht or some club in these medium leagues in Europe, why would you not take a chance on him? So I mean, there is a chance that we lose these 3 players, and then I don't know, is there money to bring in more people? Do people want to come into this at the moment? I don't know.
No, I mean, losing Benoni's goals would be extremely difficult for Kauer at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, a death blow, unless he's replaced by 2 other people.
Yeah, exactly. But time will tell. We'll see what the updates are with Kauer in the coming week. Hopefully there'll be something positive to talk about next time.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the European draws have also been made. Maybe we should go over them. In Champions League, Vikingur are playing Shamrock Rovers, who incidentally were a team that I used to play on FIFA on occasion. So whether I support the Icelandic contingent or my old FIFA team is up for debate. But that's a game that Vikingur should be able to at least perform in, right?
Yeah, but Breiðablik beat them last season at this exact round, so they should be able to stand up to them. But I remember that one of their best players last year was injured, I think, or not fully fit for these games. So let's see if they show up readier for this round, Shamrock Rovers. Because it was a tough game, but it was one that Breiðablik did dispatched relatively easily, given the resource gap between these teams. So we'll see. I mean, Vikingur hasn't had the best form in Europe, something that Arna Gunnlaugs has been quite defensive about. but I mean, they need this is the time they need to perform in Europe. So this is the year they need to do something.
Yeah, but it's going to be quite the tall order if they do go through against Shamrock, because then they're meeting Sparta Prague, which is a difficult game.
Yeah, but I think like Breiðablik last year, if they can get through Shamrock, they're through to the last round of the Conference League playoffs. So then they're or something like they're guaranteed that at least, and then drop down to the Europa League, but they're at least guaranteed one game from Conference League qualification. So getting through that first round would be huge boost for them. But yeah, obviously you don't want to depend on going down 2 leagues when you're after you won the first round. So let's. I mean, it would be fun if they can actually stand up to Sparta Prague. But let's see. They need to get through Shamrock first. It's not a given at all.
No, absolutely not. But speaking of the Conference League, we have 3 teams there. Valur playing against KF Vilaznia. And if they beat them, they'll play St. Mirren after that. So those are a couple of games. Could go either way. Stjarnan are playing Linfield FC, followed by one of 2 teams currently undecided. And then Breiðablik are playing GFK Tigvests.
Yeah, Valur getting, at least on paper, maybe the hardest route there. But let's see. I mean, Breiðablik going to potentially Macedonia and Kosovo is not easy.
No, there'll be the crowd will be there for it.
Yeah, for sure.
But these will all be interesting games. We'll keep an eye on them and update accordingly. But obviously, we wish them the best in this. Hopefully, we see plenty of Icelandic teams and plenty of competitions, deep runs.
Yeah, I mean, we asked our followers, our listeners, how many Icelandic teams would progress to round 2 of those. When you start going down the list, you said one team will only go through, and then it's 0%, and you think, oh, that's a lot of confidence in Icelandic teams. But then zero, the people who chose 0 teams is actually 23%. So that's I'm hoping those are Macedonians and Albanians.
Yeah, about a quarter of people thought that every single one of them was going to lose. But I mean, around 75% of our listeners thought that either 2 or 3 teams would go through. So there is optimism in the listener crowd, at least.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think, I mean, if all of them go out in the first round, then something is very wrong with Icelandic football.
Yeah, I mean, my money is on 2 or 3 going through. Maybe 2 to be conservative because things happen. But I would be surprised if it's 0 or 1. I'd be very surprised.
The thing about this is it's very easy to sit back here and say, like, with Icelandic glasses and say that, oh, we should be beating Albanian teams or Macedonian teams. But I mean, Albania is in the Euros. Iceland is not.
And Albania are putting up a hell of a fight in the Euros.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I think it's quite disrespectful to these countries to say that just because you haven't heard of Vilaznia or Tikves, that Iceland will definitely beat them. That's not.
I mean, they haven't heard of Víkingur or Stjarnan, so
exactly. I think, exactly. That's a great point. So I think we need to broaden our horizons a little bit, and then hopefully we can get a few of them through.
Absolutely. I mean, what's maybe playing in their favor is that they're midway through their seasons. The Icelandic teams, maybe there'll be a little bit more sort of cohesion within the teams and maybe better fitness levels or something. But we'll see.
Yeah, we saw that last season as well. Especially some of the British teams, they weren't quite up to the preseason battle.
No.
But yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. I guess we might as well go back to the league at hand and talk about the players of the round, or of the rounds, rather. In this case, the 3 stars. I'm happy to see that we're going to award Guy Smith with a star there for 2 big games, even against Fylkir.
Yeah, I think it's either Guy or Árni. I think they both had really big games. Maybe we're being biased. Maybe Árni should be there instead. But I don't know. I think, like, even, I don't know, watching the game, at least it felt, Kawaria, Guy kept them in that game for much longer than we had any right to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, against Víkingur, he's the only reason that we weren't 3-4-0 down before the equalizer. So he definitely deserves to be in the conversation. And maybe Árni should be the 4th star.
I mean, Árni got his roses already in our talk
true.
of the goalkeeper stats, so
That's true.
He can't complain this week. And it's clear that he's performing phenomenally, so we're not taking anything away from there.
2nd star, I think, we need to mention a Háka player, and I think Thorsteinn Aron is one that makes sense. He scored his first ever goal in first senior league goal against Fram, acrobatically with overhead kick, and then performed really well against Stjarnan. Was a part of that Háka defense that I know they conceded 3 goals, but there were sort of 2 goals in quick succession towards the end of the game, I think, and they really held Stjarnan for quite a while and did really well on set pieces. I think he almost scored one of the set pieces. I think it was an own goal or something. I'm blanking a little bit exactly, but yeah, really really good games from Thorsteinn, who has struggled a little bit in the beginning of the season with a few red cards and a few cards. So good to see him, a young player like that, get going again. Absolutely.
And then the 3rd star go to Daniel Hafsteinsson from Kawa. Had a big game. And he's had some big games. He scored 4 goals and had an assist in the last 4 league games, so really pulling his weight there. And I mean, Kawa are still in 11th, so at risk of relegation, but I mean, he's doing his best to try to pull them out of that at the expense of Vestri or Kawa or perhaps even Háka or Fram. But he's going to have to keep these sorts of performances up if he's going to if he's going to try to keep Kawa in this.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, just to be fair, I think we're excluding a little bit the Valur attack again, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
They had 2 goals, albeit penalties against Víkingur and Gylfi, 2 insane penalties. If you watch the video, I think we posted it, they look identical. You have to sort of check the scoreboard to see if that they're 2 different penalties, perfect penalties, and then scoring 5 against Vestri, who, 2 of them were goalkeeper errors, but there were some really nice goals in there as well. So I think we should give them a shout, at least, if not a star.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're suffering from the success. We've said this before. I think we tend to give these stars to the people who maybe aren't at the very obvious top of the list, because that's too obvious. You want to give some shout outs to the people who put in the slightly more under the radar but great performances.
Smaller teams like Haukau and Kauer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Valur they're getting all the recognition they deserve, right? So they're people are very aware of what they can do and are doing. So full shout outs there for sure. If we look ahead to the games that are coming up now on the 27th and the 28th, that is Thursday and Friday. Vestri Fram, I mean, that's a game there. Sort of a battle of who's going to be more mid-table or further away from relegation. I guess for Vestri, this would be some great points to pick up. On the contrary, it would be bad for Fram to lose this one. It could put them a little bit in more danger. Kauer Fylkir, this is one for Kauer. I think the discussion is going to be that this is one where Kauer have to pick up the 3 points. I mean, obviously, from Fylkir's point of view, if they're going to avoid relegation, this is the time as well.
Yeah, for sure.
A huge game.
And we've talked about them getting better, but the goals they conceded against FO were just atrocious, or 2 of the goals. The first goal, the ball is in the penalty area, ping-ponging around for like 5 seconds. The second goal is not equally as bad. It's also, stays on the ground in the penalty area for way too long. And then the third goal, they just concede the FO right back just bombing up the right completely unopposed, and then crossing in a little bit unopposed as well. So I think defensively they really need to step up their game, even though they're scoring a little bit.
Yeah. Then we have Stjarnan Víkingur. I mean, it's obvious there. This is Víkingur to solidify Stjarnan to try to push up into the top.
Yeah.
Haukau Kawa, again, an attempt for Kawa to pull themselves out of the relegation area, and an attempt for Haukau to solidify. FH Breiðablik, very similar to Stjarnan Víkingur in what it means there. And then same for IA Valur, a carbon copy of those two games as well.
Yeah.
The top 3 are here this week to show why they're top 3, and the guys that are just off the top 3 are there to show why they belong there. So this will be an important week for Besta Deildin, and some exciting games.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, given the way that it is this season, there's only 12 teams. It's so tight, really. I feel like every week, every game is is exciting in its own way. But this week, absolutely, this is a bunch of important matchups.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. And we will be back to bring you the updates once those things have wrapped up, about the games, about the league, about the status of Kauer, about the European draws and games, about everything. So stay tuned, and we will see you next time.
Bye.